This is Locally Sourced Spirituality with John Paul, encouraging sustainable and organic spiritual practices. You don't have to go anywhere to find the holy. It's right under your feet.
This is Locally Sourced Spirituality, and I am John Paul. And today I'm going to talk about sacred spaces. Now, sacred spaces are those places that we, as humans, have set aside. We've said that these places are special. That although we know that God is everywhere, these particular places, there's a certain something about them, something that's special, something that's just a little more, that we can feel the connection just a little bit easier in these spaces. And of course, when we find them, we flock to them. People spend lots of money to go on pilgrimages to visit these places. And I was on sort of a pilgrimage these last couple of weeks. I did what I call a home tour. I offered, if someone would like a personal visit in their home, that I'd be willing to go and visit with them. And I went with the intent not to teach, not to convince, not to do anything of my own agenda, but just to listen to what people had to say. And it was a pilgrimage. It was a journey to sacred space. I heard lots of things. I heard about a bench where someone was sitting before they collapsed, that eventually led to their death. I heard about the cottage that the family went up to up north, that the family gathered around, the grandkids would come, and that there would be blessing, that there would be connection, and how that space lost its energy because of schedules and other things, and then the cottage was sold. So for a time, there was a sacred space of the cottage, but now it's no longer. I heard about pieces of memorabilia, model cars, and pictures of Elvis that didn't really mean anything to the person that was showing me, but it meant something to someone that person loved. And that gave those things meaning. See, I had all kinds of interactions these last 2 weeks that really touched me, that really gave me a sense of what I, in our tradition, what we call the Holy Spirit, where there's that animating spirit of the divine, of the living God that is surging through all of creation, that is pushing us forward, that is equipping us, that is giving us the courage to do the things that we need to do. I felt that this week in all these interactions. I met with people who I found that they were kindred spirits with me. One was an 80-year-old woman and one was a 30-something woman, who both of them have felt that what they learned as young people was valuable, but then they had new insights, they grew, and they have new understandings. And now there's some distance from the old community, and now they're trying to figure out their new identity, how to relate to this new way of understanding, this new way of thinking. I met with people who are very hopeful about the future. I met people who are very tired. I met people that are very willing to try something new, and I met people that are weary of uncertainty. And you know what? The people that are weary of being uncertain are some of the same people that are also willing to try a new thing, which is a strange thing, and it seems like they're competing ideas, but those two things are in the same person, and you can just feel the struggle. You can see the stress on people's faces, but they're willing. And they're looking to the future with hope. And in these last 2 weeks, I've met with people who differ from me greatly. Politically, theologically, socially. But you know what? They invited me in. They showed me love, and we had an interaction. And that's the holy stuff. That's the good stuff. Now, someone that has a more materialist view of the world will look at each individual relationship, and they would maybe approach it from the idea that we need to see what we can gain from each other, what we can extract from each other, how can we benefit each other, and that's fine, I guess. But there's a better way, I think. There's a more spiritual way, and I think that more spiritual way is, what can we do together that would transcend both of us? I think that's a far more interesting question, a far more interesting approach. See, the thing is, we go through this life and we have certain obligations, we have certain responsibilities, and we have to meet the responsibilities. But sometimes we get down the path of fulfilling responsibilities that we forget that we have to take care of ourselves, and we forget that it's not our responsibility to do everything, but it is our responsibility to live out the life that we were designed to live. And what's the difference? Well, look at yourself. Do you feel healthy? Do you feel like you're moving in the right direction? Do you feel like you're doing what you're most gifted to do? Well, some people might feel guilty about looking at life like that. But there's no need to feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty about constructing your life so that you're healthy in mind and body and certainly spirit. Sometimes you have to let go of comfortable things. Sometimes you have to let go of the easy. It's easy to do your duty. It's easy to follow the rhythm. It's easy to follow the pattern of life that you've been following day in and day out for the last however long, because it's familiar. And it's really uncomfortable to break the pattern and to do something new. But sometimes you have to let go of comfortable things in favor of healthy things. And sometimes the healthy thing is to get repotted, right? There's the parable of the sower. There's the seed that fell on the rocky path, or on the path, and then the birds came and snatched it away. And then there's the path that was on rocky ground, and it didn't have depth of soil, so the plants rose up quickly, but then the sun scorched it, and they died. And then there's the seeds that was planted among the thorns, and then the thorns grew with it, and it choked it out, and it couldn't thrive. But then there was the seed that was planted in the good soil, right? And so we may only know circumstances around us. We may be the seed that is in the thorny soil that we're being choked in on all sides. We might have no depth of roots, but that might be all we know, when all we have to do is look and press and strive just a little bit further down the way to find the good soil. You see, we're humans, and we need to live out our humanity. We need to live out exactly who we're called to be. Jesus called us to be set free and to set each other free. And you need space to be who you are at the deepest level of your humanity. You can only contribute to the common good when you are healthy spiritually and mentally and physically. And we need to have room to be able to do that. We need to be room to have our roots grow and get deep, and so that we can grow and flourish. But sometimes the people and the circumstances around us aren't willing to make space for us. So sometimes you have to make space for yourself. I'll say that again. You have to make space for yourself to be able to grow and to be healthy. There's a story in the book of Matthew. It's not really a story. It's a teaching of Jesus. And it's chapter 11, verse 25. And Jesus at that time said, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this was your good pleasure. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus' yoke is his interpretation of the law. It's his teaching. And it's easy, it's well-fitting, it's designed just for you. And so if we're going through this world and we have burdens of this world that is chafing and it's burdensome and it's not what we were designed to be, then we're not living our fulfilled life. And we might need to make a change. See, it's all about finding that sacred space. And I don't mean sacred space as in going someplace else. I'm not talking about hiking the El Camino in Spain. I'm not talking about going to some far-off place to find meaning. It's about finding sacred space in your own skin. Your own tradition, your own tribe can point you in the right direction. They can point you to how to look for things. They can even show you what it's like when you find the right thing. But ultimately, you have to find it for yourself. You have to walk through the valley yourself. You have to take responsibility for your own spiritual health. You can't blame the rocky soil. You can't blame the thorns. You can't blame the birds for eating the seed. You have to find the good soil to plant yourself in. Sacred space is in your own skin. And then we go back to those interactions I was telling you about, those visits I did this week. And there's the sacred space that is in my skin, and there's the sacred space that's in your skin, and then there's the space in between you and I, and that becomes sacred. We have to be close enough to be able to recognize the sacred in each other, to be able to recognize the space in between us as holy. Now that's the downside of doing this podcast, because this is only one-way communication. I'm telling things and you're listening, and I keep begging you all to do a review on iTunes or to leave feedback at the Facebook site, Locally Sourced Spirituality, not because I need my ego to be lifted up, but I long for that community. This is why I do this. It's that sacred space that's between us. Even better than those things would be for you to come and to be a part of a spiritual community, and to recognize the sacred that is in your brothers and sisters, to recognize the sacred that is in me, and me recognize it in you, and to recognize the space between us that is holy. We have to be close enough to be able to recognize that, but there also has to be some distance, right, for us. There has to be enough space for you to be you, and there has to be enough space between us for me to be me, so that we can recognize that there is a difference. And then there's those very special relationships between spouses where that space closes down to a very small space. Each partner still retains their own identity. Each partner retains their own sacredness, but it blends and it melds and it becomes almost one. So how's it with you today? This is a short one today, I know. I'm about ready to go out for dinner with my family to a family with another family that's invited us to their home to have dinner, and pretty excited about it, because this is an invitation into that space. It's an invitation into sharing life together, and that's what it's all about. You who are church people, church planters and church growers, listen to this. It's about relationships, not false ones that we look at and we say, what can I get out of this person? But it's truly pouring yourself out for someone. It's truly loving someone. That stuff is contagious. That stuff. That's the good stuff. And maybe you'll find that as you're going through, you'll find someone like I did, that the victory comes when we know that finally I'll be able to cope with this life. I'll be able to get through today. And that's the victory for some folks. That's the victory for one person I met. And she shared that with me. And I'm thankful for that. I pray that you are blessed. Talk to you next time.
Music is provided by Bleed the Water. Check them out on Facebook. Graphic design by Holly Pole Photography. Go to hollypolephotography.com. This has been a John Pole production.